Lush Kariesko Chaso Yaviet Savuska Pravde, Vladimir Lenin. A lie told many times will become true. So the Petrograd Soviet of Workers and Soldiers and Deputies, or in Russian Petrogradsky Soviet Rapaganski Soldata Deputitov, was a city council in Petrograd, which is St. Petersburg, but renamed to Petrograd for anti-German sentiment and to make the city sound more Russian. The capital of the Russian Empire at the time. For brevity, it is usually called the Petrograd Soviet or the Petrogradsky Soviet. The Soviet was established in March 1917 after the February Revolution as a representative body of the city of workers and soldiers, while the city already had its well-established city council, which was the St. Petersburg City Duma or the Central Duma. During the revolutionary days, mostly the July days and the February Revolution days, the council tried to extend its jurisdiction nationwide as a rival power centered to the provisional government, creating what is the Soviet historiograph is known as the Dobrojanshi, or the dual power. Its committees were key components during the Russian Revolution, and some had their leads in armed revolts in the October Revolution, and some had led the armed revolts in the October Revolutions. So before 1914, the Petrograd was known as St. Petersburg, and in 1905, the Workers' Soviets called the St. Petersburg Soviets was created. But the main precursor to the 1917 Petrograd Soviet was the Central Workers' Group, or the Italianska Nanya Robanska Grupa, formed in November 1915 as the Menshevik to mediate between workers and the new Central Military Industrial Committee of Petrograd. The group became more radical as World War I progressed and the economic situation worsened, encouraging street demonstrations and issuing revolutionary proclamations. On January the 27th, 1917, all dates are in Old-Style calendar, or the Gregorian before the Gregorian calendar, the entire leadership of the Central Workers Group was arrested and taken to Peter and Paul Fortress, and orders of the Alexander Protopopov to the Minister of the Interior of Imperial Russia. They were freed by a crowd of disaffected soldiers on the morning of the 27th of February, the beginning of the February Revolution, and the chairman convened a meeting to organize and elect Soviet workers' deputy that day. So this is when the Tsar is ousted and the provisional government is proclaimed. That evening, between 50 and 300 people attended the meeting at the Tared Palace. A provisional executive committee, or the ISOCOM, was chosen by Chairman Nikolai Chieze, and with the mostly Menshevik deputies. Chieze was then replaced by Ida Tesseleri in late March. A Vista was chosen as the official newspaper of the group. The following day, February the 28th, was a plenary session. Elected representatives from factories and the military joined the Soviets, and again moderated dominance. Non-representative voting and enthusiasm gave the Soviets almost 3,000 deputies in 2 weeks, of which the majority were soldiers. The meetings were chaotic, confused, and unruly, little more than a stage for speechmakers. The party-based Stockholm quickly took charge of actual decision-making. So the chairmen of the group were Nikolai Chieze from March the 12th to September the 19th, 1917, your boy Leon Shrovsky from the 25th of September 1917 all the way to 26th of October 1917, and Gregory Zenavi from December the 13th, 1917 to March the 26th, 1926. The executive committee members only came from a few political groups, and every socialist party, given 3 seats, agreed on March the 18th. This created an intellectual and radical head for the peasant workers and soldiers dominated body. The executive committee meetings were more intense and almost as disorderly as the public meetings, and were often extremely long. On March the 1st, the executive committee resolved to remain outside of any new State Duma. This allowed the group to criticize without responsibility and kept them away from any potential backlash. On March the 2nd, the Soviets received an 8-point program in the Provisional Government Committee, and the State Duma appointed an oversight committee, the Noblyansky Nai Komite, and issued a decisive conditional statement for support. Moreover, the Soviets undermined the provisional government by issuing its own orders, beginning with the 7-article Order No. 1. The Soviets were not opposed to the war. Internal divisions produced a public ambivalence, but it was deeply worried that the counter-revolutionary moves from the military, and was determined to have a garrison of troops firmly on its side. So there were other committees as well, the Petrograd, which were the Petrograd Military Revolutionary Committee, or the PMRC, or the Menchicom, and the Committee of Revolutionary Defense. Alright, so we're getting close to the end. So this created a situation described by the Novinsky, or the dual power, in which the Petrograd Soviets competed for legitimacy with the provisional government until October and the October Revolution. So the Isokom, or the Executive Committee of the Petrograd Soviets, often publicly attacked the provisional government for its bourgeoisie and boasted for its de facto power over the de jure authority, control over post telegraphs and the press, railroads, food, and other infrastructure. A shadow government with the Contact Commission was created on March the 8th to inform the provisional government about the demands of the revolutionary people, to exert pressure on the government to satisfy all these demands, and to exercise uninterrupted control over these implementations. On March the 19th, the control extended into the military front lines, with commissars appointed to the Minister of War Support. Disputes over war aims led to the street protests in April, including military units protesting outside the Menshikori Palace. The unrest was quickly directed by Bolshevik leaders into what some would interpret as a coup attempt. The Stockholm issued proclamations to restrain disorder and repeatedly quashed Lavard Kornilov's demands to put troops and artillery in the streets. There were riots in Petrograd and also Moscow, but anti-Bolshevik and pro-provisional government groups soon stopped the agitators. A riot deeply worried the provisional government. There were a number of resignations, and on top of that, May the 1st, the Stockholm voted to allow its members to take its cabinet post in return for further concessions. The Bolsheviks and the left Mensheviks, followers of the Julius Manatov, opposed this and any corruption and cooperation with the provisional government. After negotiations, a new cabinet was chosen on March the 6th. Alexander Gutskov and Piliv Mekinkov, the leaders of the Constitutional Democrats, cadets, left the government. Alexander Kerensky was moved to the Minister of War. 6 socialists took cabinet posts. The rise of the Bolsheviks in the Russian history is known as the Bolshevization of the Soviets. The Bolsheviks rapidly assumed the mantle of the official opposition and took advantage of the new socialist president in the cabinet to attack them for failures of the provisional government. The Bolsheviks began a strong run on propaganda. In June, 100,000 copies of Prava, including the Soldata Prava, the Glos Prava, and the Okapana Prava, were printed daily. In July, over 300,500 leaflets were distributed. The July Day riots from July the 16th and July the 17th led the Bolsheviks were without success. The rise of Kerensky and the latest shock of the Kornilov affair paralyzed and polarized the political scene. The Petrograd Soviets moved steadily leftwards, and as those the center and the right coincided around Kerensky. Despite the events of July, and the Stockholm moved to protect the Bolsheviks from serious consequences, adopting resolutions on August the 4th and August the 18th, again to arrest and persecute the Bolsheviks. Still wary of the Stockholm, the government released many senior Bolsheviks for bail or promise for good behavior. On the 20th of August, municipality elections, and the Bolsheviks took third of the seats and third of the votes, making it a 50% increase in 3 months. The Kornilov affair and the Stockholm were forced to use the Bolshevik military as its main force against the counter-revolutionaries. Kerensky ordered the distribution of 40,000 rifles to the workers of Petrograd. Some Red Guards, many were ended in the hands of the Bolshevik groups. Other socialist parties abandoned the Soviet organizations. The Bolsheviks increased their presence. On September the 25th, they gained a majority of the workers' section, and Leon Trotsky was elected chairman. He directed the transformation of the Soviet into a revolutionary organ according to the Bolshevik policies. On October the 6th, with German advance threatening the city, the government, after advice from the military, made plans for evacuation to Moscow. The Stockholm attacked the move, and Trotsky had soldiers section, who were mostly Mensheviks, voted for a resolution condemning the evacuation. The provisional government postponed evacuation indefinitely. Its attempts to dispatch Petrograd's garrison units to the front were resisted by the troops and the Stockholm. On October the 9th, the Soviets considered the creation of the Committee of Revolutionary Defense. The Bolsheviks and Trotsky amended the resolution and included the security of Petrograd against both Germans and domestic threats. The Pulum of the Soviet voted for the committee to gather all the forces, participate in the defense of Petrograd, to arm the workers, ensure the revolution defense of Petrograd against the military and civilian Kornilovits. The Stockholm approved the resolution against the Mensheviks' resistance on October the 12th, and the Soviets appeared on October the 16th despite warning from the Mensheviks and the SR, creating the Military Revolutionary Committee, or the Revolutionary Committee, who were called the Menshicom or the Military Committee. The Military Revolution Committee was chaired by Pavel Lazimir and Nikolai Prodosky as the deputies, and in front of the activities of the Bolshevik military organization, Vuvotsky, who took official control of the committee on the day of the uprising, with Vladimir Antony Oskursky as secretary. The Stockholm and the provisional government had been cut out of control in the military forces in Petrograd military district, since very few of them remained loyal to them. The military staff was sidelined on the night of October the 21st when the Menshicom took exclusive control of the garrison and named the soldiers section of the Soviets. The district commander, Colonel Polukinikov, refused to allow this control, and he and his staff were condemned in a Menshicom public statement and a direct weapon to the counter-revolutionary forces. The military commander responded with an ultimatum to the Soviets, which led to delaying negotiations on the meeting of October the 23rd and the 24th. The Bolshevik popular uprising began on October the 24th when liberal forces tried to shut down the Pravda and take other steps to secure the government. The Menshikov sent armed groups to seize the main telegraph offices and lower the bridges across the Nevia. That night, the Bolsheviks took control quickly and easily since the vast majority of both the guards and the workers had sided with them, participating in the plans of the Menshicom. The following morning at 10 p.m., the Menshicom issued an announcement written by Lenin, declaring the end of the provisional government and the transfer of power to the Petrograd Soviet. In the early afternoon, Trotsky convened the expeditionary season of the Petrograd Soviets to preempt the Congress of Soviets. It was packed with Bolsheviks and left RS deputies. The following day, the Stockholm rejected the workings of the Congress and called on the Soviets and the army to defend the revolution. But that evening, the Congress dismissed the Stockholm and replaced it with a new group of 101 members, or 62 Bolsheviks, under Lev Brezhnev Kamarvin. It also approved the Decree of Peace, the Decree of Land, and the formation of the new government of Councils of People's Commissars, or the Soviet Nayeski Commissarov abbreviation to Sadriakom, until the meeting of the Constituent Assembly. The Starnakom was accountable for the CEC and the VISTK in theory, but the organization was in every aspect powerless against the Soviets. Long live the revolution, my friends. I name dropped a couple of people, and I would not really touch, maybe I will touch on Lenin and Alexander Kerensky, but this is the morning time. And oh wait, it's actually going on to 1 o'clock actually. But I will start recording again maybe at 3 o'clock, so maybe today you might see the provisional side with Alexander Kerensky, and I might probably toss in, who knows, maybe Trotsky or something, I don't know, let's see how it goes. Learn something, my fellow comrades. Long live communism, I guess. I know people are gonna get excited for this episode because, you know, communism and stuff, so share the knowledge, my friends. Learn something, share the wealth, share the knowledge, share the videos. Please don't subscribe to my other ideologies, please. Thank you.
Democratic Republic, more free under war conditions than any other country in the world.